So, so far we have done through 3-day demo series, and then we had our first class yesterday highlighting about what are the different type of IT companies that are available and what's the pre-project activities that take place before actually a BA gets involved. Okay. So today what we will do is, in today's class, we will discuss on some of the commonly used terms in IT, okay, that we must be aware of. Okay. Now, once we go through these set of terms today, in tomorrow's class, we will again connect the dots. Okay. So in yesterday's class, we stopped at what happens before actually a project comes in. Okay. So how the sales and marketing team will be working towards getting a project. In tomorrow's class, we will continue that connection and we'll discuss on once we get a project, how a team is set up, how the team works together, yeah, who will be doing what, undertaking what kind of responsibilities. But before we get to team level detail, who will be doing what kind of work, what are the different team members in the team, yeah, we need to understand few terms related to IT. So let's get started. Let me The first term is statement of work. This we covered yesterday as well. Statement of work is also abbreviated as SOW. SOW or statement of work. Now, this SOW, as we discussed yesterday, is a legal agreement between the client and the IT company. Okay. So basically, it talks about what is the nature of the work to be performed. Okay. So what type of work needs to be performed? What happens if any one of the party wants to break the contract? What will be the duration of the contract? What will be the money involved in the contract? Okay, so basically it governs how the contract will be carried out. Okay, so that's when SOW is signed between the client and the IT company. That is when the actual work begins. Okay, so it's like getting a bill for your purchases. If you purchase any item without a bill, chances are that you won't get any warranty support. People may not trust that you are the owner of the product unless you show the bill. Okay. So similarly, statement of work is that agreement between IT company and the client that we have actually got the work. Okay. Until statement of work is signed, it is all in theory only that I'll get the work, or you would have heard the term work is in pipeline, but still not yet there. So you will, as a BA, do you read SOW often? So the answer is no. Okay. But you will keep hearing the term like how the work needs to be performed is defined in SOW. So for example, I work for a US health insurance company now. Okay. So in US, they run multiple insurance programs. Okay. So one of them is Medicaid. So in Medicaid, no person outside of United States or no person other than citizen of United States should be working on any data related to Medicaid. Now this is defined in SOW. So that is whenever a change is needed related to Medicaid, the work that is not given to us. So such kind of small details are quoted out in the SOW. Okay. The next term is scope. Now this is a term that you as a BA will be using mostly in your day-to-day life. Okay. So scope basically means defining boundaries. defining boundaries for the project. Now, whenever you start working, it is very important to understand what are the boundaries of my work. Okay, you cannot have an undefined and an unlimited boundary. Okay, otherwise, there will be no end to your work. Suppose if I want to set up a payment gateway solution wherein the customer can select online payment method like credit card, debit card, say UPI, internet banking, wallets. So they can select any of the method, and based on the method, they can go ahead with the payment. Okay. Now I know that setting up all the payment methods, building a payment gateway will consume lot of time. So I can define a scope that for the next 1 month, I will be focusing only on the credit card method. So once credit card method is in place, then in the next project, I'll focus on, let's say, UPI. Then in the next project, I'll focus on debit card, then then internet banking, then wallets. Okay. So like that, I can define the scope or boundary for each project. Okay. Now, how do you define the scope? Is it that the BA by themselves will decide? So that's not how things will happen. You need to coordinate with your client. Okay. So client will let you know what are the important features they are looking for. Okay. As a BA, we do the assessment. Suppose if client tells me I want credit card, debit card, internet banking, all three. These three are important for me. So at least I want these three in the current project. Okay. But current project duration is only 1 month. So in 1 month, I cannot do all these three. Okay. So doing all these three, credit, debit, and internet banking, requires 2 months of time. So I cannot do 2 months of work in 1 month. Okay. So that is where we as a BA then start negotiating with the customer on what can be done and what cannot be done. Okay. So scope is something that you'll be working on your day-to-day life as a BA, because before we start any project, we must define the boundaries. Okay. So once the boundary is defined on what I need to do, then I get into the actual details of the work. The next term is change request or change requirement, which is often abbreviated as CR. Okay. So people will often tell you that do you have a CR to work upon or a change request to work upon. So change request basically means, now what do we mean by this formally kickstart the work? Okay. So basically, what happens is whenever an SOW is signed, okay, and the client requires some changes in the software. Okay. So what generally happens is that change that the client wants, it will be done through a CR or a change request. Okay, so it's a formal way of entering a ticket. Suppose today I am facing internet issue. Okay. So because there is an internet issue, I called Airtel and told them that there is an internet issue. I'm not able to access internet. Okay. So what happened? When I called them, they formally lodged a complaint. Okay. So they gave me a ticket number. Based on that ticket number, now I can then track the progress, whether the service engineer is assigned or not, whether the issue is resolved or not. In future also, if I want to raise another complaint or grievance, I can use the same ticket number. Okay. So the same thing happens in IT also. In order to formally track any request, okay, customers are officially or clients are officially supposed to raise a ticket. Okay. This ticket in general can be called as CR or change request. Okay. Sometimes some people may take CR as change requirement also. Okay. So change requirement basically means you have started the work. Okay. Once you started the work, then client comes in and asks for a change in requirement. Okay. So let's say you created a requirement document, you are done with it. Now the developer is doing coding. Once they are doing coding, then customer comes and says, I want more changes in the requirement. Okay. Or maybe you are creating a requirement document, and while you are creating the requirement document, the client comes in and says that I want more changes. Okay. So that will be your CR. CR could mean change request or change requirement. Change request basically means that the official work item number, okay, which will help everyone track the progress of the work. Or change requirement meaning the changes in requirement. The next is elicitation technique. Elicitation. Okay. So elicitation, the English word basically means that you extract information, knowledge, opinion, fact, emotions from the other person. Okay. Say, for example, I consider that let's say Vijay knows artificial intelligence very well and Priyali knows about data engineering very well. Okay. Now I want to learn about these two topics. Okay. So what I know is Vijay has idea about AI, Priyali has idea about data engineering. Now I'll talk to Vijay, I'll talk to Priyali to extract information or knowledge that each one of them possess so that I can also know about it. Okay, they are not directly sharing all the information. As of now, they just told that I have the information, we can connect and I can explain you what AI is or what data engineering is. So that is what elicitation is. You talk to people, you extract information, knowledge, emotion, opinion, fact from the other person. So what happens in IT is you will be talking to clients to extract information or knowledge that they have related to requirement. Okay. It's not that client will give you a requirement document and you just have to use that requirement document as is. Okay. Client will never give you requirement document. Client will have idea. Okay. Client will only have idea. What is your duty is to use appropriate elicitation techniques. Okay. And in the upcoming classes, when we go through requirements, we will also go through different elicitation techniques that are available to a BA. So whenever client shares an idea or whenever client submits a change request, okay, so once a client submits a change request, then as a BA, I'll decide which elicitation technique I can use. Okay. Talk to client on that elicitation technique to extract information or knowledge from the client. Okay. Using the knowledge that I receive from the client, then I start working on creating requirement document. Okay. So another term, even when we ask people like, what do you do as a BA? People often say that as a BA, I talk to client to get requirements. Okay. So the reason why we are going through all these terms is not to, in future, is not to give this such straightforward answers. Okay. So what we expect is to formulate answers properly. If anyone asks me, what do you do as a BA? I don't say I work with client to get requirements. Okay. What I instead say is, as a BA, I choose appropriate elicitation techniques to define the scope of the project, the requirements for the project, so as to establish a requirement document. Okay. Now, the second answer looks more formal, looks more attractive even to the interviewer, because now the interviewer thinks that I am using appropriate terms for me to get started. Okay. Now, when I don't use these specific terms, people think that I just have received training. I don't have any idea about what a BA does. Okay. So the reason why we are using these terms is you go over these terms, make sure that in the upcoming classes we talk in these terms only. Okay. We don't want to remember these terms only during the interview time. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll have to spend more number of hours for your interview preparation. If we get into the habit of using these terms in our everyday class, okay, by the time you are ready for interview, you don't have to remember these terms again. Okay. In fact, when you go to your office also, when you start working as BA, then also you can directly start using these terms. Okay. On that note, I'll take a pause. Any questions so far?
I have nothing as of now.
Sure. So we'll go ahead. The next one is business rules. Now, generally, rules are what? Okay, so rules are basically defining how an activity should be performed. Okay. So in the same terms, whenever a client comes in, client is basically owner of a business. Okay. So client will talk about policies, procedures, or guidelines around how they perform their operation. Okay. So for example, client can tell you whenever my customer, like uh, let's say I'm a broadband company, okay, likes of Airtel, Geo. So whenever a customer makes a payment, I need to acknowledge and give them a bill also. Okay, so whenever a customer makes a payment, then generate the bill. Okay, this is a high level idea about what we need to do. Okay, but okay, this is a high level activity that I need to perform in my software or in my product. Okay. But there could be certain checks or validations that I need to perform. Okay. So, for example, what should be the minimum value of payment? Sorry. Okay. Can a customer pay for any amount like 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 10 rupee? Okay. That is not the case. Huh? What should be the minimum payment? A customer can only pay amount as per the bill. Okay. Suppose if the bill is of 1,000 rupees, then customer must make a payment of 1,000 or more. Then what is the other criteria related to payment? Will have a due date. Okay. So a customer needs to make payment by the due date. If they are paying after the due date, then there will be some penalty. After due date, then there will be a penalty. Similarly, if you don't pay like 1 month after the due date, then your connection should be disconnected. Okay. So there could be things like penalty, then disconnection. Okay. And then if the disconnection happens, and if you want to start your connection again, then you need to pay some amount. Okay. So now you see, we had a very simple requirement to start with, or very simple idea to start with. Customer makes a payment. Based on the payment, I give them, sorry, not bill. Based on the payment, I give them receipt that I have received payment. But can customer make any payment? No. The payment should be as per the bill. Can customer pay by any date? As long as customer is paying before due date, okay. After due date, penalty. After 30 days from due date, then disconnection. Okay. So now you see, I added more and more rules to a simple requirement being discussed. Okay. So these are called as your business rules. Okay. So business rules are nothing but policies, procedures, ideas, or simple rules that define how an activity or operation should be performed. The next one is environment or regions. Okay, another term that you will be hearing more often. Okay, so environment or region are basically used for parallel development. This is to enable parallel development. Now, what is this parallel development? So let's say I have my software available at a server. Okay, I have a server. Now, generally, you see, whatever code you write, okay, whatever code a developer writes, the code is residing at a server. Okay. Software is what? Software is nothing but software is basically a bunch of or a line of code. Okay. These codes will be located in a server. Okay. I cannot keep code in my laptop itself. Generally, what will happen is I will copy the code to a server location. Okay. Now, this server location is what my customers will also access. If customer wants to see a product or a software in action, what they will do? They will they will reach out to that server only. Okay, so when we type in any internet address, okay, that www.google.com, basically we are going to a specific server. Okay. In that server location, whatever code is present, okay, whatever software is present, software is what? Basically lines of code. Okay. So whatever code is present in that server, that code gets executed. Okay, once the code is executed, I see the output. Now, suppose I want to make more changes. Customer has submitted a CR. Sorry, client has submitted a CR. They want some changes in the code. Okay. Suppose I directly start making changes in the code, but I don't know what the impact of the code change will be. Will it work correctly? Will it have any issues? Will there be problems with the customers? Okay. I don't know what the impact will be. So that is where what happens is every organization will have a test server and then will have a production server. Okay. So test server is where the initial changes will be made. Once you are done with initial changes, then this is where we will do the testing as well to ensure that our code changes are working correctly. If everything looks good, if after testing everything looks good, then the same code is copied from test server to production server. Okay. Production server is where customer will have access. People in IT company will mostly have access here. Okay. And client will have access to both test also and production also. Okay. Now, why we do this? So that whenever we make any changes, we don't know what the impact of the change will be. Okay. So if we have just one server and we directly make changes there, then our customers will be impacted directly. Okay. If I'm making a negative change because of which the server crashes down or the software is giving unexpected result, then customer will know that I did not make correct changes. Then immediately what will happen? Customer may move to my competitor product. Okay, customer may decide to leave me. So I don't want all those things to happen. So whenever you are making changes in your software or product, what you do is you do it on test server, where you make the changes, you do the testing. Once after the testing, we are assured of that that the product will not fail, that there will not be any unexpected results, then we move it to production server. Okay. So we don't directly make any changes in the production servers. So behind the scene, it is server. But in simple terms, what will happen is we will call these production server, test server, okay, multiple things as environments or regions. Again, within server, we might have some more bifurcation or division. So in test server, we can say first is development region, then QA region, then UAT region, and under production server, we will just have production region. So development region is where the developers will do the coding and will do initial testing. Okay. QA region is once the developer is done with the initial level of coding and testing, then developer will move the code from dev region to QA region. QA region is where my testers will do thorough testing. Okay. They will try to perform exhaustive testing to ensure that they are covering every aspect. Okay. Once QA also completes testing, they are okay with the changes. Then developer will push the code from QA region to UAT region. UAT region is known as user acceptance testing. Okay. This is where now my client will do the testing. Okay. So first developer did initial testing, then tester did one round of testing. Now client wants to do testing. Now client will not do thorough testing. They will just run few cases. Okay, couple of scenarios to ensure that it is working as expected. Okay, now if all three goes well, then we move to production region. Okay. Next is estimation. Okay, so estimation is basically what? How much time will you take to complete a task? Okay, it's simple. So if I ask you, if I give you a task, okay, and I ask you for estimate, basically I am asking you to tell me how much time will you take to finish the task. So that's another thing. Whenever a CR is raised and when we assign to the work, okay, before we get started with the work, okay, before we start identifying what's the scope of the work, okay, what requirements or business rules should be in place, okay, we try to find out the estimate around the work. Okay, so what's the estimate? Are we supposed to Client will not give you exact estimate, but client will share the expectations that I want the work to be finished in 1 month. Okay, so client will have general expectations that I want the work to be finished in 1 month. As a BA, I need to assess whether the requirements, whether the business rules, how much time will I be taking, how much time developer will take, how much time tester will take. So based on that, whether it can be finished in 1 month or not. Now, before we move on to the next slide, any questions on these three terms?
Mm, nothing, I believe.
Sure. So next is change management. Okay. So change management is more of administrative task. Okay. So Basically, scrum masters or project managers, they will try to identify whether everyone in the team is following the process or not. Okay. So suppose if as a BA, I'm supposed to create requirement document in a specific template. Am I creating requirement document in the specific template or not? Suppose a developer needs to create a design document. Is developer creating the design document in the appropriate template or not? Okay. So they ensure that whatever process needs to be followed in order to build the software, that process is being followed or not. Okay, in simple words, that is the change management. It will mostly involve people with the administrative tasks like Scrum Master or Project Manager, but not a BA as such. Then the next few terms that we will be discussing up to test lead, from stakeholders till test lead, are basically about different people that you might be interacting with. Okay. So all these terms are basically referring to some specific type of people. Starting with the first term, that is stakeholders. Now, what we will try to make a habit is, till now I have used the word client because I did not cover the word stakeholder. But now the expectation is going forward, we will try to use the word stakeholder instead of client. Okay, client and stakeholder can be used interchangeably. It's just that the word stakeholder gives more weightage in IT. So, first is stakeholder. Who is a stakeholder? Stakeholder is basically a person who is impacted by the change. You can also say stakeholder are the people or group of people who owns the business idea or who are actually paying you to implement the idea. Okay? Or in simple terms, we say stakeholders as client only. So next time onwards, whenever we want to talk about client, we will try to use the word stakeholder. Okay. We'll have a class on stakeholder management as well, where we will go through different type of stakeholders. But as of now, remember that business stakeholders are your client. Okay, there could be multiple types of stakeholders. Among the multiple types, business stakeholder is what we refer for client. But for now, let's say we will use the term stakeholder or client interchangeably. The next are SMEs. So, next is SME. Now, SME stands for subject matter expert. So basically, what it means is someone, a person who might have started as a fresher, but over 10, 15 years working in one particular field, one particular area, they have become a master of it. Okay. You see, we all have went to school, colleges, and we all had a teacher which will teach a specific subject. Okay, why the teacher will teach specific subject, like why the math teacher will teach only mathematics, or science teacher will teach either like physics, chemistry, bio. Okay, because they became an expert by studying about that particular field. Okay, so they can be also referred to as SME. Now SME is not a separate designation as such, but suppose I spent 15 years in the health insurance domain. Okay. Within the particular health insurance, my expertise lies in the enrollment area, how members can be enrolled in the platform. Okay. So I became an SME for enrollment area within health insurance. So SMEs are nothing but they are considered as experts on a given subject. Okay. Why will they be considered expert on given subject? Because number one, they have spent lot of time studying about the subject. Number two, They are either publishing white papers or articles, okay, or in any way, not just white paper publishing, but in any way contributing actively. When you know about a subject and when you share the knowledge about the subject, that's when you will be called SME. Next is consultants. Okay, so consultants you can consider are more of contractors. Okay. Say for example, I'm doing a project, okay, and for doing the project, I hire you for a specific task. Okay. Now, to relate it into your real world, consider CAs, chartered accountants. Okay. So now the income tax return filing time is there. IT return we need to file. Okay. So what happens is we will hire a CA, give them some money, and ask them to file IT return on my behalf. Okay. So for a specific process, for 1 or 2 days, I hired them. I did not employ them for the entire year. I'm not giving them salary for the entire year. Okay. So similarly, when I'm working on an IT project, sometimes my team may not have specific technical knowledge or business knowledge. So I can hire consultants from the outside to guide the organization or to guide my team specifically. Okay. So consultants will not do any requirement gathering or coding or testing. Okay. They will just guide the team around. Now, sometimes an organization, and it is purely up to organization, they can keep consultants on contract basis that you just come in, guide me, and then go away. Or sometimes they can keep them as full-time people. Okay. But the only way to differentiate between regular team and consultant is a regular team will be actively working on producing artifacts. Like as a BA, you will create a requirement document. A developer will do coding. A tester will do testing. A project manager or a scrum master will manage the team. Okay, they all will have tasks. But a consultant's only task is to guide the team. Whenever team comes to him with a doubt, guide the team. Then we have technical architects. Okay. Now, generally the small softwares that we build, they can be managed by the developers themselves. But enterprise related softwares, okay, enterprise related softwares are not simple. They are quite complex in nature. And in order to declutter that complexity, we have technical architects. Okay, so technical architects will decide what technology we will be working upon, which technology can help me generate maximum value for from the product. Okay, so if you see some product is coded in Java, some are in Python, how will you know whether I should use Java or Python? Okay. Within Java or Python also, with specific class, the technical aspects, what specific frameworks to use, what coding style to use, how to make my application more secure so as to prevent any kind of hacking on my application. Okay. So all these will be taken care by technical architects. Okay. See, remember the enterprise softwares are not straightforward. They are quite complex in nature. Because of their complexity, not one person can do the job. You need a team of people. Okay. So, for example, in our side, we have almost different sub applications. Okay. So overall, it looks like a health insurance application, but under health insurance application, we have enrollment, okay, product setup, benefits, claim processing, provider network, then billing, payment. Okay. We have multiple sub applications. Then within these sub applications, so for example, in enrollment, there are currently 8 teams working where I am working. Okay. So you see, health insurance application to a customer who is logging into health insurance website, it may look like one product, one simple software, but behind the scenes, there are multiple sub applications that are coordinating with each other. Okay. Within those sub application, again, there are multiple teams because the enterprise softwares are quite complex in nature. You cannot think that I will build a software from scratch on my own for an enterprise. Okay. It will require lot of skills and time. So what happens is there are bunch of people who will work together as a team, and then we will make changes specific to enrollment. Some will make changes on billing side, some will make changes on payment side, and then when we combine all our changes, we get our product. Okay. So because you see you have how multiple applications are involved, so that's where you need technical architects. Technical architects will decide how should we do coding in enrollment, how should we do coding in payment, how should we do coding in billing, how these three applications will coordinate or talk to each other. So all those will be taken care by the technical architects. Okay. So as a BA, whenever you get to work on a complex project, okay, chances are that you will not directly work with your developer. You will first work with a technical architect to create a technical solution. Once the technical solution is in place, then the developer can get involved. Okay. Then we have development lead and test lead. Development lead is basically the technical lead for the set of developers. Okay. Suppose developers are doing coding and they get some doubt. What they will do? They will first reach out to their development lead. Similarly, testers are doing some testing, and if they get doubt, what they will do? They will reach out to test lead. See, as a BA, I don't know technical stuff. So if a developer reaches out to me and tells me that I'm having this issue in my code, how to resolve it, chances are I may not be able to answer to their question. So what will happen? I can tell the developer to reach out to their development lead first. Okay. If development lead is not able to resolve their doubts, then I can connect the developer with technical architects to see if technical architect can resolve their doubts. Okay. That's all I can do. I can know your problem and I can connect you with the person who can give you a solution. But I may not necessarily give you solution by myself. Okay? And as a BA, you are not supposed to give solution all by yourself. All you have to do is the work keeps moving forward. Okay? The work is not stopped. You just have to connect people to the right person who can give a solution. That is where in our yesterday's class I was saying as a BA, it is important for you to build relationships or rapport. If I have good relationship with technical architect, I can ask the developers question directly to technical architect. Okay. And because I have good rapport relationship with technical architect, the architect will try to help me. Okay. If I don't have good rapport, good relationship, what will happen? I'll reach out to technical architect. The person can help me, or the person can say, "Why don't you send me an email and then I'll take a look." Okay. So what happens if the person helps me good? If they don't help me and they ask me to send an email, I send them an email. Then it is up to them whenever they get chance, they will review and they will get back to me, which means my work is stopped. I'm waiting on their response. So my developer cannot move forward. So that's the difference between not having a rapport versus having a rapport. If you have a rapport, there are good chances that technical architect will help you straight away. Okay. Similarly, on the testing side as well, okay, we'll have test leads. So if testers have any doubts, questions, training requirements, they'll reach out to their test leads first. If testers have created a test result document, they'll reach out to test lead for a quick review before sharing it directly with a BA or a customer for review. Okay. Then the last term that we want to go over is defect bug, or issue. So basically, what it means is my software is not working as expected. Okay. So I expect like my software to give specific outcome, but it is not giving that outcome. Say, for example, this notepad is nothing but a software. When I click on file menu, I expect certain options to come in the drop down. Okay. When I click on file again, I expect the options to be closed. But suppose when I click on file menu and nothing happens, nothing, I'm not able to see any options under file, then what it means that the software is not working as expected. My expectation was when I click, I should see the sub menu. But what is happening is when I click, I don't see any sub options. I don't see any menu within file. So that means now my software is not working as expected. Whenever software is not working as expected, then in IT, what we say that we have encountered a defect or a bug, or there is some issue in the software. Okay. And issue could be with respect to any part of the software. Okay. I gave you a very simple example of a click. Okay. That the click is not giving the expected outcome. Okay. And it is tester, they will be also called as QA. It is their duty to identify that bug or defect. Okay. When a tester or a QA is doing testing, it is their duty to identify as many bugs possible. If they don't identify any bug or defect, that means my developer has done perfect coding. Okay. So once a tester identifies a bug, then tester will inform developer that I have identified a coding issue, or I have identified a bug or a defect in your code. Then the developer will fix the code. Once the developer has fixed the code, then tester will do the testing again. Okay? They will do the testing again to ensure that the issue is still not there. So that's generally a developer and a tester will be fighting over this particular problem only. Tester will say, I have found a defect or a bug in your code. Developer will say it is not a defect or a bug. Okay? So that is where a BA comes into picture. Okay? So whenever a tester wants to say a bug has been found, they will reach out to BA for review. Okay? So BA will review what kind of defect did you find, and then BA will give approval. Okay, that yes, this is a defect. If it is a defect, then tester will assign it to developer. If BA says no, it is not a defect, then no problem. Tester will start with the next test case. Okay. So rather than tester and developer fighting whether it is a defect or a not, the tester is saying it's a defect, developer is saying it is not a defect, it is working as expected. And many times when you start working as a BA, you will be part of this fight as well. Okay, that's not a serious fight, that's just verbal argument. Okay? So that's where, in order to solve this issue, we have BA in between. BA will review what kind of defect the tester found. If it is truly a defect, BA will give approval. Yes, it's a defect. If it is not a defect, BA will say it's not a defect. Okay? So, any questions? We have covered all the commonly used terms. These are the terms that we will be talking right throughout our training program. So, any questions? Yeah, I'll take the
I have
silence as
nothing.
Sure.
as
Thanks
of
for
now.
confirming, Vijay. If there are no questions, we can end our class for today. We'll connect tomorrow at the same time. Thank you.